boring and just bleh, blah, blah, blah. Because, again, vampires, you know, they kill people. Just this litany of names. Like, bam, action, and then we're done. You surrounded yourself by idiots. You fucking idiot. And she's dumb as a fucking box of hair. Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' books. Several friggin' books. I have a fair amount of recent reads, so let's just get into them. Okay, a couple of these are DNFs, and I actually, 2 of them have a whole video talking about those 2 DNFs, so I'm not going to get too into those, and then 5 of these are all from the same series. I'm going to be recording a separate video talking about that series, so in this video, I'm just going to quickly give like overall thoughts and ratings, and then whenever that video is up, you can check that out. So it shouldn't be terribly long, I guess. Hopefully. There's a lot of books. There's like 10 books. Some are from April and some are from May. Yeah, there's over 10, I think. Jesus Christ. At any rate, the first one is a DNF that I did already talk about. A NetGalley e-arc I had, Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. I DNF'd this in April, and yeah, I'll try to remember to link the video up there. I got like 50-60% into this or something, I can't remember. Pretty well into it. Just wasn't vibing with me. I can see people enjoying it, but I just didn't really care that much. There were certain things about it that just weren't working for me, so I gave up. And then the next DNF was also from that video, another NetGalley e-arc. Really doing great with those recently. The Surviving Sky by Kritika H. Rao. This one I didn't get as far into. I want to say like 10 to 20% or something like that. Sci-fi, sci-fantasy, and it was one that I wasn't positive if I was gonna love it based on the genre and the description of it, but it sounded cool enough, the premise sounded cool, and I wanted to give it a shot, but ultimately I was correct. It wasn't for me. Again, though, I can see there being an audience for this. I can see a lot of people really loving this. If you're into sci-fi, into sci-fantasy, it's a very cool premise, it's a very cool world, so I would say check it out. And then there's a couple from this other series. I guess I can just briefly show. Both of these were rereads from the series because I had read the first 3 books many moons ago, like 10 years ago. The first one being The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz-Zafón, first book in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. This is historical gothic fiction. There are mystery elements. In later books, there's definitely like crime procedural elements. And I am going to have a whole separate video talking about this, but I loved this 100%. I gave this 5 stars, so yay. Love that for me. This is one that the first time I read it, I gave it 3 stars, and I don't know why. Like, I was smoking something. And then the second book in that series I reread, The Angel's Game. And this one also, the first time I read it, I think I gave it 3. Yep. This time I gave it 4.75, not quite 5, but damn near. Just, I mean, masterpieces. This one has more horror elements than the other ones in the series. All of them have little hints of, at the very least, creepy stuff. Very atmospheric, and you're like, ugh, I'm tense. This one definitely, though, had like full-on horror elements, and just, I loved it. And then I finally finished The Storm of Swords, the version I have, the editions, it's like the 2, but it's 1 book, really. And it took me a hot minute to read these. And this is definitely my favorite one so far in the series. Still not perfect, though. I gave this 4.5 stars, which is a very high rating for me, especially. But yeah, you cannot separate the show from the books when you watched the show first. And I got so familiar with the show, like very, very familiar. It's not like I've just seen it once. Like I'm very, very, very familiar with the show. And it's just, I can't separate it. I really can't. So I don't know how I would feel about these had I not ever watched the show prior to reading them for the first time. I mean, masterpiece in world building, masterclass in character development, but overall it's just, I don't know, it's a lot. It's very tedious. So far, I do prefer how the various plots play out in the books versus in the show. particularly Sansa having way more agency in the books. And I think, too, Tyrion, I mean, he has the same end in that whole plot line with, you know, Joffrey's death and the accusations against him and stuff. But I just felt like he was way smarter. He was way smarter, like, leading up to that, and, like, with Shay and everything. Again, to the same end, unfortunately, but the lead-up was more enjoyable, I felt. My one thing, though, that I definitely don't like as much is that in the show, we get way more of the Tyrells, Marjorie in particular, and in the books, so far, she's very much a side character, no Marjorie POVs. You don't really know her all that well. You're just seeing her through Cersei's POV most of the time, and which is obviously very negative. And yeah, I don't know. I don't love that, because Marjorie's one of my favorite characters from the show. And so it makes me a little bummed that in the books she's just kind of there, really. So yeah, had a good time with this. It took me a while, but I did enjoy everything that was going on in this book. And then the next one in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, this one, the first time I read it, I did give it 5 stars. And I gave it 5 stars again this time. Just love it. Just love it. Oh my God. Ugh. I can't wait to do the video talking about these, because I feel like I don't have words. I feel like I don't have the proper words for how much I love this series. Like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Then I finally finished this series, the Menagerie series by Rachel Vincent, Fury being the 3rd book. This is from the library. I need to get it back to them. It's been a minute. Once again, I read this very quickly, as with the first 2 books in the series, like less than a day. These, I mean, I can just blow through these books. They're not very long, first of all, but like, even books this size don't usually take me literally less than 24 hours. Like, that's not normal for me as a reader, but man, they're like such quick reads. And I said before, after reading, definitely after the first book, but even after the second one, which I didn't like quite as much as the first one, I was like, but if the ending is like a 3+, like 3.5-ish, around there at least, like I could see myself buying the series to have it as kind of a palate cleanser, kind of when you need just some frivolous, ridiculous entertainment in between like heftier reads or more complex reads, just as that kind of a thing. But I didn't really enjoy this ending. Like, I mean, it was fine. I gave it 2.75 stars. It was there. It was less entertaining than the first 2, for one thing. There just wasn't anything going on. It was very meandering. It was just a lot of talking and meandering. And then the last, like, couple chapters were just like, bam, action, and then we're done. And then that's it. And the action at the end, it was so quick. It was so quick and kind of, like, silly a little bit. I was just like, what are we doing? I don't know. I don't understand, without giving spoilers, I don't understand how the big event at the end did anything. It was supposed to, like, show the world something and, like, make everything better. And I'm just like, I don't get the logic behind this. How? And because we didn't see either. It happened and then that was that. And then just, oh, it worked. And I'm like, I need to see how it fucking worked, because I'm not following this logic here. Also, this series overall, it was more so in this book, I feel, that it like really was driven home, but it was driven home before. It's a very in-your-face like allegory for just any kind of marginalized community. So I could say it's an allegory for racism, but also sexism, but also homophobia and transphobia and stuff, like xenophobia for sure. Like, it's a very in-your-face allegory for that. And I mean, it doesn't really do it in a very nuanced or deep way, I don't feel. So yeah, I had way less fun with this. I mean, I didn't give it like 2 stars or 1 star. I probably could move it down to like 2.5 though, if I'm being honest, because it just really was like, it was really, yeah, I probably am. I'm gonna move it down to 2.5, actually. So I don't think I'll be buying the series. It is what it is. Nice little fun reads. It's whatever. Then I actually did read a NetGalley e-arc, The Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashem. So I ended up giving this one 2.75 stars, unfortunately. This one, I mean, it was an anticipated release, but I wouldn't say it was on my, like, it wasn't in my, like, top 5 anticipated releases. I admittedly, I'm gonna tell you right now, I skim read in several places in this book. So take my opinion with a grain of salt, please. Because of that, I initially gave it 3 stars, because I was like, I did skim read. But, like, I don't know. I think I'm bumping it to 2.75 because like the reason I skim read is because it was there. It was so kind of blah to me. Like, I can't really remember that much about this book, honestly. Like, when the name came up in my list, I was like, what was that again? Like, it was in my brain and out immediately. I didn't really hate anything about it by any means, but it was like around 30% that I started to feel the itch to DNF, where I was like, I don't care. But I continued, I pushed through, like I said, but I was so not in it. By 55%, I really wanted to DNF and I considered it, but I was reading through it at a pretty decent pace, and I just was like, Deshauna, you've DNF'd 2 NetGalley e-arcs recently. Like, we gotta finish one. Our ratio is gonna be absolutely in the garbage. So I did finish it. I just wasn't captivated by the main character very much at all, and the overall plot as well. I personally, a trope that just doesn't really vibe with me is the secret but reluctant lost heir or whatever. I love a lost heir or like a secret heir, but I just don't love it when they're like super reluctant and stubborn and like, no, I don't deserve it. It couldn't be me because I don't deserve it. The people deserve better, and like this and that and the other thing. It's just kind of tiresome to me personally, and that was going on here, so that's a big reason. That was just like the plot and everything. I was like, okay, I don't care. And honestly, a lot of this book as well felt pretty meandering to me. I was like, what are we doing here? And like a lot of scenes with a lot of lead up to a conversation where like the inner monologue of the main character starts telling us all this information and backstory and like world building information, like leading up to, oh, I gotta go talk to somebody. And in my head, I'm gonna think about that person and who they are and it's just, it happened enough times that, again, for me personally, that kind of thing, it just started to like jump out at me and pull me out of the story. And I just felt like it wasn't so much telling a story as it was telling her repetitive inner struggle. I just kept getting repeated of her inner struggle over and over again. And just without, for me, very much of an actual story happening, in my opinion. This is one where I can absolutely see there being a pretty wide audience of people who will have a fun time with it and enjoy it. I don't think it's a bad book by any means, and I would certainly recommend it to people who enjoy these kinds of stories or who enjoy these tropes. But yeah, it just wasn't really working for me. And then I finished the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series finally. This was the one that I had never read, the biggest one. She was a chonker. And this was the second one that I gave 4.75 stars to. Couldn't quite give it 5 just because there was a section kind of in the middle, maybe not directly in the middle, but like into the book, but like not towards the end, where it was a little bit of a lull. I wouldn't say that I suddenly was like slogging through it or anything like that, but there was definitely kind of a lull in the plot and like where we were going and the pacing and whatnot. That was the only qualm for me. Otherwise, again, masterpiece. Just, I love these characters. I love being in this world with them. I'm not going to start gushing because I'm going to do a whole video gushing. And then there's also this collection of short stories that are like involved in this world and with these characters. Very short. I had picked this up and read this as well. This one, obviously, I mean, it's short stories, and you know, if you've been here a minute, you know I tend not to ever really love short stories, but I did give this 4.5 stars. So many questions. Reading this, I was like, okay, wait, what? And I wanted, as soon as I finished reading this and like I read this, I was like, I want to start over from the beginning right now. I want to reread these immediately. I didn't, and I'm not going to just because I have other things I need to get to and I want to get to, but like the itch is there. The itch to just reread this entire series is 100% there. I might do it this year, I'm not gonna lie. Then I picked up a random Dear America book. This is one I have read before in my childhood. This is actually one from my childhood. My little name I wrote in there, so cute. And these are, you know, fictional, like historical fiction, fake diaries from different eras of American history. And there's some that are from other histories as well, but most of them are America, obviously. I always try to review these and any other like truly like chapter book, young reader books, middle grade books through the lens of my younger self as much as possible. I remember really enjoying this one as a kid, and I can understand why I did. There are a lot of references to Native Americans, not necessarily from the main character. I mean, yes, there are some, like, she has some stereotypes in her head, but like the people around her especially using very derogatory terms for Native Americans. And I mean, you know, it's from 1763. It makes sense that people of that time were just freely using these terms. So awful stereotypes as well about people being savages and things like that and all of that. So definitely be aware of that if you're someone who's curious about any Dear America books or giving it to a child. It's just a lot of prejudiced thinking. Again, obviously because of when it's taking place. These are Quakers as well. But I did enjoy the way the author laid out this character's very honest journey from some slightly prejudiced thinking because of what she's told by the older people around her, to a more open-minded, empathetic, and just compassionate way of thinking about other people in general, as well as the complexities that it created for the main character. Because this whole thing is she's a captive of some Native Americans for a while, and then like going back to her Quaker village, to her family and whatnot after this, and having this feeling of like the Native Americans aren't terrible people. Like, they treated me very well, and I grew to really enjoy my time with them, and then you guys are being all hateful to them still and all mad at them, and like created complexities for her. And I enjoyed how the author laid that out, again, for a younger audience. And then I finally read A Feast for Crows by George R. R. Martin, and this took me a hot minute. Buddy read this with Roger, his first time reading it too, and both of us were like, my God. So slow and tedious. And good fucking God, Cersei, I already hated her from the show. Like, yeah, she has a couple moments of like not being a total horrible bitch. And like she really loves her kids, and that's ramped up in the show, where like I could say that generally speaking, like she is a loving, compassionate mother to her children more than she is in the books, because she's kind of a petty ass bitch to them in the books too. But I mean, she loves them and like wants to protect them, but like can be really like just mean to them sometimes. And she's dumb as a fucking box of hair. Oh my God, she's so fucking stupid and has such an overinflated sense of herself and her intelligence. And I just want to punch her right in the teeth. I hate her. I hate her. Oh my God. And in this book, it felt like 70% of the book was Cersei POVs. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know what the percentage is. But holy shit, she had so many and they were so long. Her chapters felt so long. I just hate her. She's sitting here putting all these people on the council around her who are dumb, and she's like, they'll just do what I say. But then when they're dumb, she's like, God, they're so stupid. Why am I surrounded by idiots? You surrounded yourself by idiots. You fucking idiot. And also, so much Ironborn bullshit here. I don't care about the Ironborn all that much, especially in the books. I don't. The saving grace for this book for me was the Dorne chapters, but why weren't there more? And Sansa in the Vale was more fascinating as well to me in the book, but again, not a lot happened there, truly, but it was just a little bit more interesting than it was in the show. And again, Marjorie, way better in the show, way better, because she's so a side character here. Another thing I did enjoy, the Dorne chapters, far better in the book than in the show, and like it was one of the saving graces of this. But also, Jaime, and spoilers, but Jaime actually being fucking done with Cersei, at least currently. Like when she's sending him the note of like, please come save me. And like in the show, they changed the timeline of stuff, obviously. But like in the show, when he's at River Run, he is like, I need to get back to Cersei. Like, fuck all y'all, I want to get back to her, and I will do whatever the fuck I have to do. And he's just desperate to get back to King's Landing, to get back to Cersei. Whereas in the book, she's like, please come save me. It's not just that he just misses her and wants to be by her side, but it's like she's actively calling to him for help, and he's like, yeah, fuck off. Love it. Like fucking 10 out of 10. And the setup for Dany stuff, which Dany isn't in this book, but the setup with like the Citadel, that Archmaester, and like Maester Aemon telling Sam, and then Sam telling that Archmaester, and like, what are we gonna do there? And then also Quentin Tyrell, is he gonna go talk to Danny actually? Like, what's gonna happen there? Very intrigued. So like the setup for her is very cool to me. And yeah, just very little action. Lots of standing around, lots of walking around, lots of talking, and just bleh, blah, blah, blah. So I love this world, and obviously I recognize that George R. R. Martin is a master of the world building and the cultures and the lore and the characters, making them very like deep characters. You get to know them very well, but like, man, sometimes it's very tedious. It's one of these things where I know, this is gonna sound so stupid. Obviously the show, at least the first, 5 seasons, couldn't have been as good as they are without the source material being as good as it is. Because so much of that, the plots and everything, stick true to the books. And the dialogue, especially in like the first 2 books, it's like the carbon copy to some degree. Starts getting away from it in the 3rd book and definitely in the 4th book. But I know that the show couldn't have been as good without the source material. But for me personally, I just think, I recognize these books are great, and in so many ways, George R. R. Martin is a master at writing, right? But it's tedious to a degree that like is painful at times, where this is a story, this is a world, and this is a story that for me works better in visual medium. It just does. There's certain things that I think could have been cool if the show had done more of the truly fantastical elements could have been cool, but I think they did a pretty damn good job the first 5 seasons. 6, I like season 6 too. I mean, I like all of them, but like 8 kind of sucks, and then 7 has many, many flaws. 6 started to have some flaws, but was still pretty solid to me, but like the first 5 seasons for sure were like pretty damn solid. But like, yeah, it's just, the visual medium works way better for me. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, just middle of the road. Elements of it I get are great, but Jesus H. Christ. And it's just like such filler. It felt like such a filler book. Then I DNF'd this chunky bitch and unfortunately spilled some fucking something on it, and so I can't go trade it in at Changing Hands. I could have, because it's like in great shape. I actually got it from Changing Hands. But like, yeah, now I can't. They won't take it, I don't think. So I'll have to take it to Bookman's where I won't get quite as much. But I got like 20-some% into this, and I am fascinated by the Romanovs. I really am. But holy shit, talk about tedious. This is tedious. And it's talking about like the crazies and like the crazy shit they did, but it's just like reading off a list. It's like the Bible when it's like, so-and-so begot so-and-so, who begot so-and-so, who begot so-and-so, and they did this and they did that, and they married that person, and they begot them. It's like that. We're just like, all right, okay. Just this litany of names. I'm not going to remember any of it. That's why I DNF'd it. Because I'm like, parts of this are very fascinating, but like, I ain't going to remember shit. So I think, like I said, I am very fascinated by the Romanovs, but I think me personally, I will be better suited. It will be more productive for me, and I will retain more reading smaller books of like certain time periods or of certain members of the Romanov dynasty. I think that would be better for me. Almost done. 2 left, guys. Then I buddy read Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chupeco. This is the Goldsboro edition. I still have the plastic on it because I don't think I'm going to keep this. It's pretty cool. It has like a bookmark or a ribbon or whatever. This is adult fantasy, paranormal, vampires, but like in a kind of more like medieval-ish time. But they have a lot of science and like labs and research. But the premise basically is we have people who are reapers who go hunt vampires who are like killing people. There's like the human kingdom, and then there are vampire kingdoms, and they're trying to like have an alliance together. But whatever, it's a tense brokering of an alliance because again, vampires, you know. They kill people. We are following one particular Reaper, Remy, and he is renowned, but he's kind of hated. He's kind of ostracized in society despite being a really good Reaper. But he has kind of like a heart of gold where he treats vampires definitely like they're other, but not necessarily like they are automatically just evil, terrible monsters. But anyway, things go, there's like the rot, this like virus infection that's happening that they're like trying to look into this and blah, blah, blah. Things go from there. I really, really liked Remy, our main character, a lot. I really like him. I don't know that I like love him. I like almost love him. I really, really like him. And then all the other characters too that he interacts with. There's definitely romance here, and I will say there's poly things happening. And then there's also a really cool platonic male-female friendship, like really cool, like they almost like treat each other like siblings. And then there is another Reaper. There's only one other Reaper who is like nice to Remy at all, who's his friend. Really cool dynamic there too with that guy. Like really cool character dynamics. And all these other characters, I really liked them. But this one, the plot just kind of felt all over the place to me. It just felt like too much was going on. This is a 100% a plot-driven, Jesus Christ, plot-driven book. Again, even though I really liked the characters a lot and I like the character dynamics and character development that's happening, but it's super plot driven, where it's just like stuff happening and more stuff, and then but then over here, and then but that other thing, and it just kind of felt like there's a difference between a complex plot with a lot of threads and a lot of things happening that you're putting together, and a plot that is just kind of all over the place. And this one felt just kind of all over the place a bit, where I don't really care about what's happening in the plot. I care about the characters. So it's like when I finished it, I was like, man, do I plan on continuing with this series? I don't know that I would. I wish these characters were in a different story. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I need both, but like I'm realizing that ultimately the good plot is ultimately more important to me. Because like the final strife and the battle drum, love the plot, love the world, love the lore, love the history of the world, love what's going on, what we're learning, how everything is laid out. Like the characters, but I don't love those characters. Like they're cool, they're fine. I hope Hassa is my favorite. I do really like Hassa. But the other ones, I'm kind of like, yeah, you're cool, you're fine, whatever. But that plot, that world, it's all like so cool to me. And like in this one, it's the opposite. Where I'm like, I love these characters. I really like these characters. They're so cool. I like their dynamics together, how they interact with each other. But I don't give a shit about what's happening. I was buddy reading this with Elle technically, but like I ended up finishing it I think before she technically started it, because usually she finishes before me, so I was trying to like get a head start. But she, so far, she's like, I think maybe 30 or so % in, and she's really digging it. She was saying kind of like, yeah, I can see though the plot does feel a little bit all over the place, but she really, really is liking the characters, so she might end up I might just give this to her, because I just don't think I see myself continuing with the series. If I ever did, I certainly don't think I will care about having special editions of it. I could see myself getting it from the library when the second book comes out, just to see how I feel. But yeah, I ultimately ended up giving this one 3.5. The plot feels like a 3, if not like a 2.5. But the characters would be like a 4 to 4.5. So I settled in the middle there with like a 3.5 overall. And then a quick little pick-me-up, because I feel like I've read several like more in-depth, complex things lately. So I grabbed the next Lady Hardcastle mystery, burning issue of the day. And yeah, these are historical, cozy mysteries. Lady Hardcastle and her maid/friend, Flo, and they're all from Flo's POV, and I just love these. They're so fun. They're so funny. Lady Hardcastle kills me. Right here. They're talking about languages that Flo knows. Or no, that Lady Hardcastle knows. And she's like, I bet you're just being modest. Am I right, Miss Armstrong? Like that Lady Hardcastle's being modest. And then, a little, I said. To my knowledge, she can hold a decent conversation in French, Spanish, German, Italian, Mandarin, Hindi, and Latin. And ancient Greek, said Lady Hardcastle. I'd forgotten that one, I said. And Shanghainese. Ah, yes, and that, I agreed. You can get by in Hungarian and Serbo-Croatian, too. I picked up a little Russian while we were in Moscow. She's stronger than she looks, I said. Miss Challenger and Senorita Rojas looked blank, but Lady Bickle gave a chuckle. Very droll, she said. Like, I picked up a little Russian. Oh, she's stronger than she looks. like she picked up an actual person. Oh, it kills me. Cracks me up. I fucking love it. And this one was particularly fun. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It just hit the spot. Hit the spot with the humor and the fun of it all, and where the plot went, and some other characters that we get introduced to as well, and one character that we get to spend a little more time with, and that I imagine will probably pop up in other books in the series. And yeah, I had a fun time. And there we go. I don't know how long I just talked, but that was a lot of books. Holy shit. If you've read any of these or are interested in any of them, let me know what your thoughts were or what ones you are interested in if you're going to pick them up. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined and have not already. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.